Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica on our continuing series, Horror Hallmarks, where we take a look at some of my favorite horror experiences of all time for the Halloween season. And today we're looking at PT, or Playable Trailer, released by Konami and developed by Hideo Kojima. And this is quite a disappointing story, because while this little interactive demo is quite amazing, clearly if you read about any video game news, you know that this game was cancelled and Kojima's relationship with Konami ended in complete disaster, and we never actually got the game that this was previewing. But as a standalone experience, there's a ton to talk about here, because even though it takes place in basically just two hallways, it has some of the best use of horror mechanics in gameplay I've ever seen. But basically, starting out, there isn't much story to be had at the beginning. You were in this room with only one exit, the door, and you come out into a hallway, and you were in what looks like a very disheveled house. There's food cans all over the floor, there's, photos and paintings, and while everything seems slightly normal, you come into the bathroom and you have a fetus with a very malformed head breathing in the bathroom. And that mirror is broken, so you can only see the bottom of your reflection, and instantaneously you know something isn't right. But all we know is that we can just keep moving in one direction, because the door behind us, it does not go anywhere. It goes back to that sealed off room. And you'll see that there's a little balcony there, a radio, keys. It looks like wherever the people that lived in this house went, they left in a very quick hurry, because it looks like it was lived in, and then just one day people just got up and vanished. And as you go through the door, magically you're in the same hallway again, but now things are slightly different. We have all these empty wine bottles on the floor, like one of the residents had a bad problem with alcohol. We have a ripped portrait, and we have a clock that, unless you do the right things, will never switch from 23:59 to 0 or midnight. But you'll see here, you get a closer look. Everything on the walls kind of seems normal. You have all of these portraits of flowers, different branches, but they start to change and things start to get weirder, and you still have this strange fetus in a sink with a heartbeat. And while it gets explained a little bit, you'll see here that there's a hole through the bathroom wall, which will become important later on. Now, I will say that I am just showing you the very beginning of this experience. And the unfortunate part is that you can't download it on the PlayStation Store anymore. Konami canceled this so hard, they pulled the demo completely. And now you'll hear some weird moaning coming in from the background, and we're progressing a little bit more in the demo. But you can play this game if you download it online for PC. It was remade for more people to experience it, but the little bonus in the end of the demo, and I'm sure most people know what it is by now, but I won't tell you in case you haven't learned it, that's missing from the downloadable PC version. You can sideload this onto a PlayStation 4. I can't tell you how. It's kind of complex, so I'm sure you Google it. But now as we've gone through the door again, we see that, again, slight changes are occurring. We now have a green flashlight where before we had a white one, and before that we had a red one. And that's what's so interesting about this demo, is that you really need to be careful and observant to see what's changing in the environment around you. Because little changes, if you look at them or if you interact with them, are going to push the story forward. Because I will say, nothing is logical in this demo. The things that you need to do to progress the story and get to the end are quite esoteric and quite strange. And when it first came out, Hideo Kojima said that he thought it would take weeks for somebody to be able to, air quotes, beat the demo and see the surprise in the end. And while it definitely was shorter than that, there was a lot of confusion as to how to actually trigger certain events. Some people thought that you had to have, a headset plugged in with a microphone and talk to the game to be able to trigger certain things. And I'm not even 100% sure if all of the triggers have been established, or people just think they know what they are, but might be doing something different. And I do love that as a horror experience, going in and not knowing what you're doing, not knowing how to navigate the world, because a lot of horror films, a lot of horror games feature otherworldly elements that don't adhere to the classical rules of what our world is. We all live it in a time and a place in a world where all of the laws of nature have been set. But when you put horror into a game, and you can see we can't backtrack right now, that horror element changes the rules. Things that aren't possible become possible, and that's why the way you transverse through the world, how you interact with things not being logical, works perfectly in the aspect of a horror experience, because you can't expect reality as you know it to work the same way that it would if you were in the normal world. If all of a sudden magically you woke up in a haunted house with monsters and something strange happened, you'd be able to believe it because you were already in a house with monsters. Now, if you woke up in your own house and some of these things started happening, they'd be unbelievable because that's not the reality we live in. What I'll let you do is watch this loop, hear some of the sound effects that are quite great, but I will come back in just a minute and talk more about PT, but enjoy the strangeness that's about to happen. Now, every time you hear that bell ring, something has occurred in the game which is driving the story forward, and it uses a ton of audio clues versus visual clues to tell you that you're getting closer to your end goal. And I really like that because so often you get these heads-up displays telling you that a goal's been achieved or there's a checkpoint, and the fact that this demo, it is a game, but I'm going to keep calling it a demo, has absolutely no heads-up display really sells the point. And that was not fun. The first time I saw that, it scared the ever-loving hell out of me. And that is your opponent, for lack of a better term, in PT. She can kill you, or she cannot kill you. And sometimes you do the same thing and you get a different result. And that's the game kind of playing with its own set of rules, because all games, all films operate on their own rules. Whether or not those rules are based in reality or otherwise, they kind of set the expectations and then they expect you to understand them. PT changes that and throws it completely on its head, because what works in one loop might kill you in the next loop. And granted, death in this game doesn't really matter because you come right back in the room with no exit, but it's interesting. You can never feel safe. You can never expect that what you do will or won't kill you, because it changes every loop. And you can see here me trying to backtrack. I couldn't remember how to 100% beat this. I actually had to look a little bit of it up because I did finish it because I wanted to play it again, because this has been installed on my PlayStation 4 forever. So it's something that I do try to play around Halloween's. But that's the fun of this experience, and it's so unfortunate that this was not elaborated on into a full game, because that was clearly the intent. And we don't really know if the whole game was going to be what we expected. And you'll see there was a weird screen distortion there. Don't know what that was, just part of the game. But we'll never get this. Konami, being Konami, just got rid of Kojima and canceled so many amazing games, and they're just basically a pachinko slot machine manufacturer now. And it is just devastating that we won't know what this was supposed to be. But it sits and lives in its own world enough where just this demo alone is still absolutely worth playing, just as its own experience. And you can hear this evil laughing, kind of moaning in the background, and some distortion from the radio. And just the way that it plays around with audio, and there she is in the window disappearing. It did startle me even on that playthrough, just how the woman keeps popping up. You never know what's going to happen. And sometimes loops repeat because you haven't progressed to the next level of the game, for lack of a better term. But what happens in those repeating loops can change slightly. Her placement may be different. We never know. But short of that, that is PT. It's an amazing demo. I highly recommend you go out and play it. Otherwise, we really appreciate you guys watching, and we hope you're having a great Halloween. If you could do us a huge favor, go down below and hit like and subscribe, ring the notification bell. It takes us a lot of time and energy to make each one of these episodes, and we really appreciate you guys watching. Leave a comment in the description below if you have played PT, what you thought about it, and if you were bummed out that it never got made into a real game, or what you think that game would have been. And like I said, I'm sure you know by now, but I'm not saying it just in case there's somebody out there who doesn't know what the ending of this is and wants to experience it for themselves. But I still don't understand what this fetus is doing. It really makes no sense to me. It is just absolutely disgusting. And then there's a teddy bear on the floor. Kind of makes me feel a little bit sad, because like I said, this house was just completely abandoned without any forethought, and it really makes you wonder what would make you abandon a house that quickly. What happened in these people's lives for them to just get up and go and leave? And we have another bell ring. But we'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the ending with the blood on the floor. Bye bye.